Not that one.
Okay, just start talking. All right. Good evening, everyone. I want to welcome you to another Health Nights. We are at Kettering SDA Church in Kettering, Ohio. I also want to welcome people that are on the live stream feed as well. The only bad thing is people on live stream cannot sample the food that we're going to demo here, so I feel kind of bad for you. But I'd like to open with a little word of prayer. Dear Lord, thank you so much for this time. Let's be able to find ways to improve our health. You said in John 10:10 that you want to give us a full and abundant life, and let's be able to have that here on earth so we can live more fully and be able to do what you want to do and not be limited by our own health issues, dear Lord. In your name, amen. All right, so we have a really great treat. There's going to be a healthy, very tasty blueberry pie that's going to be demonstrated by Julie and Allegra over here in the kitchen. And actually, it's kind of mother and child, and you'll see when you get over there.
Hello. Come on over. I'm Julie.
And I'm Allegra. I'm her daughter. And this is my daughter, Anais. Hopefully she doesn't participate too much with us today.
So we're going to make a blueberry pie. You might wonder why a blueberry pie, because that doesn't seem like it might be a health food. But this blueberry pie is made with olive oil, which does make it better. But it's also filled with tons of blueberries. And there's so many nutrients in blueberries. They're so good for you. And we use it in our family as a treat. So I don't make it that often.
That's not true. She makes it
well
quite often.
Okay, but
and we all love it.
But it's something doesn't have very much sugar. So it is something you become accustomed to less sugar as you eat it. And the fact that you have to make it means that you're not eating it on a whim. You have to work at it. So first I'm going to show you the pie crust. So I have olive oil in here. It's 2/3 of a cup. And then there is just a little bit of salt, like about a ½ teaspoon. And then I have 1/3 of a cup of water. And now my grandmother made this recipe, and she passed it down to me. And she would whiz it up in a blender. But I found you can just do it with a whisk. And you just do this until it gets creamy. And you've all, I'm sure, made more pies than me, huh? Okay, and then I just have flour, and it's about 2½ cups in here, but I'm not going to put all of it in at first. A lot of it. And then I just stir it with a fork, because you don't want to over-stir pie dough. It'll make it tough. And about enough flour. And you just put it in until it looks like it's a good pie dough texture. And I would rather err on the side of not enough flour than too much if I'm going to err on something. I don't know about you, but... Okay, since this pie has a top and a bottom, I'm just going to split it up. But the bottom I make bigger, just to make sure I cover the whole thing. And...
My daughter, I have a 4-year-old daughter. She loves this part. It's her favorite. They always say patting the baby's bottom. So pat, pat, and she just loves it and goes to town.
And you just roll. And it's hard to roll a circle on rectangular or square paper, whatever this is. So I have parchment paper under it and on top.
Now, while she rolls, I think we should go ahead and do a couple of things here. Do you guys want to taste it while we finish eating this? Joyce, would you help us cut that pie into, you can just cut it in half in whatever pieces you want. So, I think it's very good. So it's a very light flavor with a little lemon in it. So let's talk about what's on the inside. So here, we use Wyman's blueberries. You may have seen them around. They vary in price greatly. So they're like $14 at Whole Foods. They're $11 at DLM, but they're only like $7 for a 4-pound bag at Costco. So, that does come with a membership, but they make a really good pie. And so it's a 4-pound bag, and we used about 3/4 of that to fill the pie dish. You just want to fill the pie dish. So we'll put the crust in the bottom, and then we'll fill the pie dish with the blueberries. Now, we have a mixture here of flour and arrowroot starch. We have all the measurements listed out there.
And there's a 1/2 cup sugar.
And a 1/2 cup sugar. So there is a little bit of
much.
sugar in here. And when we have it at home, she doesn't do any sugar for us often. So you can eventually omit the sugar. But it's really tasty with just a touch of sugar. So there's a little sugar in here, and you just sprinkle it over. I do it like this, and when I do it in stages. Now, this is hard for me with a handheld, but it's really easy. Just mix in and coat it.
I'm going to flip this in,
okay.
which isn't that big a deal, but I think probably most people watching this know how to make a pie, but this, I just stretch out the paper so it'll come off better. And do that. And then to get it down in there, I just want it to turn out right now.
Now, while she flips that in, you can see that I'm coating the blueberries here. How many, have you guys used arrowroot starch before? Do you know what that is?
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, so root starch, obviously. Stay there, honey. And what it does is it helps the pie gel, so you don't have to use as much flour.
That's arrowroot starch.
Yeah, often when you use a lot of flour, it can start feeling gritty. It's just a lot more carbs. Arrowroot starch gives it more of a gel flavor, and a very healthy. It's a healthy product. So you can check out what that is. Okay.
Usually I cut this with a knife, but I don't have one here, so, oh wow.
I'll just pour the rest of this in.
Actually, I don't usually do this part yet. We'll just leave it like that.
Yeah, use it as a thickener.
Yeah, the one thing with arrowroot starch, though, if you reheat something, you thicken it, and then you reheat it, sometimes it won't stay thick. But with a pie, it seems to work really well to mix them. It just thickens it in a better way. Oh. I've seen Jonathan reheat it, and it doesn't seem to do anything to it. It's bad.
Yeah. So I use this blueberry mixture too for crisps. A crisp, if you don't have time to make the crust, which these days with a little one, I felt like I make a crisp, but I use this filling, very similar, if not the same ingredients. I just put a little more lemon. We're getting to put the lemon on top, and that just makes it fresh and light and summery. When I make a crisp, I put a little extra lemon in. I put the juice of a lemon and a lot of zest. Now, we don't put the juice in the pie because it's too much moisture. So we're just going to zest the top for the pie. And I think the lemon also helps you get away with less sugar. My great-grandma used to say, anytime you add lemon zest to something, it'll taste homemade. So she added lemon zest to everything. All right.
It's hard to get this even, but it's homemade, so it doesn't really matter. But I think it's pretty even. I just feel it to see if it feels even. Okay, did you get the grated? Do you want me to grate the?
Yeah, I'm going to need your help grating the...
Actually, I'll just grate it on top.
Okay. You can grate it in and mix it. I've done it both ways, or you can grate it just on the top for the lemon. Either way, it'll seep down into the blueberries.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
My mom uses this crust. She makes apple pies. They're delicious. She's made strawberry rhubarb pies, cherry pies.
I'm going to pour this in.
Yeah, pour that in.
This part's a little bit tricky. Messy, not tricky. Nothing's tricky here.
But you can see this is going to take us less than 15 minutes. The longest part is just for the pie to bake. It smells good.
Yeah, this is much
while it's
easier than
baking.
making apple pie because you have to do all the
Now
apples.
she packs it in.
Well, I'll show you. It'll go down.
It shrinks down. So she had about that many blueberries.
Oh, I had at least that many.
At least that in that pie. And so when they all melt in the oven and bake, it just really shrinks down. So a lot of antioxidants packed in there.
And then we'll put this on. Oh, wait. We want to put
Less
the
zest of lemon.
Zest. So I just have a zester and lemon. And sometimes it doesn't come. And you don't want to zest too aggressively. You know that because it's bitter. You just want the yellow part. My hands are a mess. Sometimes it doesn't come off here. So it mixes in there. You see it glommed here, but I don't know. Maybe you're getting a big bite of lemon in your pie, but I don't know.
But I think you can also zest it right into the mixture and stir it in if you choose.
You can, but this week I baked several of these. And I think it's better when you do it on top. But hard to know because I didn't bake enough for it to be scientific or precisely enough. Now,
Usually my mom, when she cooks, she's a very good cook, but she doesn't use recipes at all. So she had to bake several to decide what is my recipe. Do I have one?
like I said, my grandma taught me this, so I don't have a recipe exactly. And if it's too thick there, it's very forgiving.
It's actually really surprising how flaky the crust is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's actually kind of shocking.
I actually prefer it when I taste others now that I'm used to it. And you can also, is this whole wheat?
No, but
you can also do a whole wheat one. Delicious. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Really
you
good.
can. And
A
what
whole
I've
wheat
done,
pastry
I can
flour,
either do
right?
half a part whole wheat, like a quarter and 3/4. You can do half. I mean, I've done it. 100% whole wheat is really rough to roll out. This thing is falling off.
That's fine.
But yes, I do make it for my family that way. My grandma used to tell me she would make it a white crust, but she'd put a wheat germ in it, and then people thought it was healthier. So that was funny.
Yeah. We
So
called her
anyway,
Grandma
that's-
Honey. She had all the little side tricks. Yeah.
And you just have to put a few, you can either take a knife and draw them in, but then it doesn't poof all up great big. And that's that. That's a blueberry pie.
Yeah.
Well, good. I'm glad. Oh,
Yeah.
good. I get
It's a great breakfast too. That's what my brother does on the way out to
Yeah.
work. Takes
Takes
a pie.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
So,
Any questions for the ladies?
oh, you're welcome. Oh, yeah, that's probably a good reason to show it to you.
Yeah, I'm surprised it collapses so much. I mean, that's
Yeah. It collapses a lot.
I did used to try to get the whole bag in there, but it was too much because then it really boiled over. So you have to go with less
Oh.
than the whole bag.
That's another thing you should note though. Blueberry pies in particular boil over. So you can see that one
yes.
boiled over. You want to cook this on parchment paper on a sheet, oven sheet. Otherwise, you're going to have a big hassle with your oven. Yeah. So.
I can remember our mother would use lard to make the crust.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah, that's what they
that's
did.
the way they
Yeah.
did it then.
Right.
And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that was flaky too.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Well, good. Well, I hope you all make blueberry pie now.
All right, thanks a lot.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's going to be louder.
All right, so for those on the live stream, you missed an incredible demonstration of a super flaky crust on a pie that was just using olive oil instead of butter or lard. Tastes fantastic as well. So now it's my pleasure to introduce not only a great dermatologist, but my personal friend, Karl Kellawan. And he's going to talk about something that's really important as we're now coming out of winter, spring, and into summer. I think skin cancer is going to be something that's going to be on a lot of our minds. How to recognize it and how to treat it, and better yet, how to prevent it. So, Karl, thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you, Harvey, for having me here. So today we're going to talk about skin cancer prevention, not so much treatment, but what you can do to prevent it. So just we'll go over a few concepts of types of skin cancers, and then we'll get into we'll talk about light and wavelengths of light and ultraviolet radiation, which is the cause of most skin cancers, and then we'll talk about prevention. So here's your three basic types of skin cancer. There are many more, but these are the three that we normally think about: basal cell carcinoma, squamous cell carcinoma, and melanoma. And this is some pictures of some typical looking ones of all three types. They can be very obvious, and sometimes they can be very subtle. If you look at the top right-hand slide, let's see, I think, where is it at? I don't know if my pointer is working, but in the top right-hand slide here, you can see that that one is fairly subtle. Skin cancer is a major issue. 3.5 million skin cancers in 2.5 million patients in the U.S. annually. Current estimations are 1 in 5 Americans will develop skin cancer at some time in their lifetime. 1 in 50 will develop melanoma. And the interesting thing about melanoma is one of the major, most common skin cancers in the younger adult population. This is a diagram of prevalence of skin cancer broken down between men and women on basal cell carcinomas and squamous cell carcinomas. As you can see, as you get older, the incidence of basal cell carcinoma goes up significantly in the male population. Why do you think that is as opposed to female population? Any ideas? Yeah, exactly. Yes, yeah, men are outdoor, workers, farmers, carpenters, and that probably accounts for much of it. So here's your personal risk of skin cancer divided up into your genetic makeup, light skin versus dark skin, environmental factors, where do you live, how high do you live, brings up one thing, guess what type of job makes you really more at risk of skin cancer based on Altitude. Pilots, exactly. See a lot of pilots with melanomas and skin cancers over the years. I think there's another slide later on that shows for every 1,000 feet that you go up, the UV radiation increases almost 4 or 5%. Am I coming through on this, or did I stand closer to it? Okay. And then there are behaviors. Do you use sunscreen? Do you use a hat? Do you stay in the shade when you're outdoors? Those factors. So we always talk about skin types. You have type 1 through type 6. Type 6 would be a very dark individual. Type 1 is your redhead, your Irish or Scottish individual. That's a type 1 skin. And I'll ask you this. Let's say you have a brunette, brown eyes, type 1 skin versus a blonde, blue-eyed type 1 skin. Who's more at risk of developing skin cancer? The blonde, exactly. Blonde hair, light eyes tends to be a risk factor also. So your genetic risk factors there again, light skin, light eye color, skin that freckles, okay, that's definitely a risk factor. Skin that burns easily, people that have lots of moles, and family members with melanoma. Those are all risk factors for someone. Okay, environmental high-risk factors. There again, altitude, latitude, closer to the equator. Obviously, you get more sun exposure. And people that live in sunny climates. You see patients that grew up in Florida but now have moved to Ohio, and they have a lot of skin cancer. These are, I think, self-evident, and we would all recognize that these are things that we know we probably should or should not do. It definitely, number one down here at the bottom, don't go to tanning salons. We'll have some data on that here in the future on another slide. Okay, so UVA radiation is about 95% UVA outdoors and about 5% UVB. UVA causes tanning, aging, and skin cancer. UVB causes burning and skin cancer. Tanning beds emit 2 to 3 times more UVA than the sun. So if you go to a tanning bed once, just one time in your life, you've just at that point increased your risk of melanoma by 20%. Suntans, obviously, when you get a tan, it's a small amount of protection, but your skin is being damaged at the same time that it's developing that tan. Okay, so what I tell patients, don't tan, don't burn. That's your goal for every summer. Okay? And this is just a little diagram showing that skin cancer is produced by damaging the DNA in the cell. And then ultimately the skin cannot reverse that damage, develops a mutation leading to skin cancer. Here's some other diagrams of these are all basal cell carcinomas. And the one on the chin, you might not think so, but that's a very large one. That's going to take some major repair. And ones up by the eye, those are very high reoccurrence areas and require often special techniques to get them out. Here's some squamous cell carcinomas. This one here on the finger by the cuticle, by the nail, often, sometimes you'll see these in carpenters, outdoor workers, and they'll come in and at first you'll see it and think, oh, maybe it's a little mild eczema. Let's put some steroid cream on it, see what happens, see you back in a few weeks. Doesn't go away, so you biopsy, it ends up being a skin cancer. Now, the nice thing about these, well, if you send him to a hand surgeon, the guy is going to lose his finger. You send him to a dermatologist who does Mohs surgery, they'll save his finger. There again, squamous cells on the lip, a large likelihood of metastasis from this location. So risk factors for non-melanoma skin cancers, that's what NMSC stands for. And there's a lot of things on this slide. People that are on immunosuppressive medications, you know, I check people's skin a lot that have had transplants and are on immunosuppressive medications. And so their likelihood of developing a skin cancer is quite high. So those people need to be looked at closely. And just where it is on the face is a large indication of how difficult it's going to be to remove it and the likelihood of it coming back. So melanoma, most common cancer in young adults, as we had seen earlier on a prior slide. 75% of skin cancer deaths. Okay, so most of the deaths you're going to see from skin cancer are going to be from melanoma. 1 in 5 develop metastasis, so that's important to know. And they can arise just in normal skin, or they can arise as a result of a precursor abnormal mole. Okay, so we've known this for many decades now, that the incidence of melanoma is increasing exponentially here. It's going up at a fairly rapid rate. You can see from 73 to 2007, the incidence of melanoma has gone up among white males and white females, but you see at the very bottom, that's black males and black females. Just the amount of pigment is very, very protective. That's why if you take a dark-skinned individual, put them next to a light-skinned individual, the dark-skinned person always is going to look younger. Okay? Just the protection from the pigment. Okay, this is risk factors for melanoma, some similar to the other slide. There again, a lot of information on this slide, but mainly, keep in mind fair-skinned, lots of moles, family history melanoma, lots of sun exposure, persons that don't use sunscreen. Okay, so I mentioned earlier about tanning beds, and 15 times the strength of the sun in a tanning bed. You know, most tanning bed light is UVA light, not UVB. Again, some melanomas on the toe, melanomas on the feet are very serious. Another bad melanoma. And this is a type of melanoma we call a Lentigo malignant melanoma. They don't look as bad as some of the others, but and they're not as bad acting. You've all heard about the ABCDs of melanoma, or just moles in general, and we've added an E for evolving. So you go from the left-hand side to the right-hand side. Maybe you should biopsy that. So let's now get into skin cancer prevention after we've had a little overview of the types of skin cancers. And so just outdoor protection, being in the shade, using the proper clothing. Window glass blocks UVB, but not all UVA. So when you're driving down the road in your car, the UVB is being blocked out, but not the UVA. As remember from the prior slide, UVA is what causes aging of the skin. It can cause cancer, just like UVB, and it causes tanning of the skin. Clouds only block about 20 to 40% of UVB, okay? Or UVA in general, I should say. So that's why God put those fair-skinned individuals in Ireland and Scotland and Britain, where it's cloudy most of the time. That's why fair-skinned people should not be living in Australia. That wasn't God's plan to begin with. Okay. So you've heard a lot about sun protection. This is the UV index. Should be 3 or higher. You should be concerned. This is a website you can go to check the index if you want to. I never go on this website myself. Okay, so let's talk about sunscreen now. You have sunscreens and you have sun blockers. Sun blockers are basically your zinc oxide, titanium oxide. Your sunscreens are all the other chemicals that are able to absorb the ultraviolet radiation. And so this is a little schematic drawing of just showing the blockers on the left scattering the sunlight, whereas the sunscreens on the right, they're actually they're being absorbed by those chemicals. Choose an SPF of 15 or more. I tell most people 30 or higher. Use broad spectrum sunscreen. Now the way the FDA has approved sunscreen use in the United States, if you see something that says broad spectrum, that means it protects against UVB and UVA. Slop on your sunscreen. Don't be stingy on when you put it on. Put it on nice and well. Reapply about every 2 hours or more especially after swimming or sweating. And choose a water-resistant sunscreen. Make using sunscreen your regular habit. What is an SPF? Everyone know what SPF means? Okay, it's right here. Sun protection factor. SPF is a number that tells you how long a sunscreen will protect your skin from a sunburn. Now, an SPF of 15 means you'll see here on the formula. I'll explain it later here. And people often ask this question, are higher sunscreens better than a 15? And indeed they are, but the increments are smaller. So an SPF of 15 blocks 93% of the UVB rays. Okay, so most of the work is done by that first 15. An SPF of 30 blocks 97%, 50 blocks 98%. We have now SPFs that are 100. Now, all of the studies for sunscreens have been done on UVB light. We're pretty sure that it protects against UVA light also. But there's a lot of study that needs to still be done on sunscreens, what wavelengths they work against. For example, just visible light, which usually is around 400 to 700 nanometers. That can cause tanning too. So we may need to have sunscreens that are effective against just regular visible light. Calculating the SPF. So you take how long it normally takes you to burn, and that varies individual. And let's say it's 10 minutes for a very fair-skinned person to get a sunburn. Multiply that times 15 if you're putting on an SPF of 15, and then that will give you 150 minutes. Okay, so example down here at the bottom. SPF sunscreen of 30 protects somebody that normally burns in 12 minutes. It'll take them 6 hours to burn. But even though this is based on one-time application, very controlled studies, we still recommend that you reapply sunscreen. Okay, here's the various types of chemical sunscreens: avobenzone, homosalate, octosalate, octocrylene. And the AB refers to the wavelength of light that's blocked by that particular chemical. It's a little typo when it says A2 at the bottom there. That just means A and B. There again, these are blockers. Zinc oxide protects against UVA and UVB both, and so does titanium oxide. Okay, just some other sunscreens in this particular product called Blue Lizard. Now, sunscreen safety. I think there's been some evidence some discussion in the press of whether or not sunscreens are safe. As far as we know, they are very safe. We might learn in the future that there may be an additive in the sunscreen that might not be might be somewhat harmful. But there again, the message is that sunscreens do protect you from sun damage and ultimately sun or skin cancer. So clothing, safety, sun-safe clothing. I think this is obvious to all that now they have shirts that you can wear when you swim. Use a broad brimmed hat. Keep your arms covered. I wear long sleeve shirts all summer long. I don't think I even own a short sleeve shirt anymore. This is a UPF ultraviolet protection factor. It's like an SPF for fabric, and the higher the UPF, the more UVA that's blocked. And so, for example, just a simple white T-shirt only has an UPF of 5. So, tight woven clothing, is the most beneficial. Hats, and obviously baseball hats, they're not that protective. I think a baseball hat has an SPF of about 3. But broad brim hats, the kind with the little cover in the back, I use those when I do yard work at home. Sunglasses, don't say a whole lot about that, but obviously sunglasses do protect your eyes from cataract formation and sun damage. You can get melanomas in the eyeball also. Now this is RIT SunGuard laundry detergent. It's the Tinosorb FD is the chemical, and it's able to attach to the clothing and provide additional protection, and will last for 3-4 washings after you use it. So it's just another layer of protection that you can use if you're interested. Now we're going to talk about Polypodium Leukotomos, and that's a tropical. It's a ingredient from tropical fern plant native to Central America and South America. It's taken orally for the treatment of inflammatory skin diseases, and it serves as a protectant against sunburn. You can buy it as a supplement. I'm going to skip this slide. And let's talk about niacinamide. A lot of research on niacinamide, been ongoing for years. And it's a supplement also. And it's a water-soluble form of vitamin B3. You don't want to buy niacin, which is another form of... Where's my thing? Doesn't work. You don't want to buy niacin. That's another form of vitamin B3, and it causes flushing and a few other things. You just want the niacinamide. Also available in a supplement. These are easy to find. I don't have the slide for this, but it's called HelioCare Advanced, and it actually combines both niacinamide and the Leukotomos together in one capsule, and you can take that. That's very effective, and it's available at health food stores, on Amazon, etc. Okay, so this is another area of skin cancer prevention. We talk about skin resurfacing, and a lot of research on this. Doing chemical peels or laser treatments on the skin can obviously rejuvenate the skin, but also helps to lessen your risk of skin cancer. Dr. Travers, right here at our local Wright State, he's a dermatologist, but he also is chair of pharmacology and toxicology at Wright State. And they've done some studies showing that there's this hormone called IGF-1. And as we age and sun-damaged skin, that IGF-1 decreases, but you can actually increase the levels again by rejuvenating the skin. with chemical peels, with laser treatments, using retinoid creams, etc. This is a slide just showing some laser resurfacing.
So the first layer that we're putting on...
This is a slide showing doing a chemical peel.
Coat, and you can see how there is a light precipitation of frost on the specific actinic keratoses, and that is from the salicylic acid. We'll take a look over here.
Okay.
Completion of the peel. This is what it looks like.
This is the end of the peel.
We're down to a level 2 frost.
All this will eventually just slough and produce new skin.
And on the forehead here, we have a nice kind of mixed frost as well through here.
Okay. Now, besides chemical peels, laser resurfacing, you can also use some topical agents. 5-fluorouracil at the very top left-hand corner. You can use retinoids. You've all heard of retin-A cream, right? Probably. And you can use imiquimod. These are all chemicals that can give some rejuvenation to the skin and probably increase those levels of IGF-1, which is made by certain cells in the skin. In times past, we would tell people, you know, if they came in at the age of 70, 75, 80, getting a lot of skin cancers, well, you did the damage a long time ago, and now you're just paying for it. You know, you did the damage to your skin when you were in your 20s, 30s, 40s. But with this understanding of how IGF-1 works, we know that you can increase that level again, and still it's prudent and important to use sunscreen. Okay, there's just a slide going over 5-fluorouracil, how you use it, some of the side effects you expect. We use it to treat pre-skin cancers on the skin. We use it to treat superficial basal cells and superficial squamous cells on the skin. And this is imiquimod, also used to treat superficial skin cancers like basal cell, actinic keratoses, and superficial forms of squamous cell carcinoma. That's it. Time to ask questions. Anybody have a question?
Any question? First question, Karl. So
Yes.
We should all be using sun blockers and not sunscreen then?
No, most of your high sunscreens, you know, the ones that advertise 70, 80 or above, are using probably a combination, you know, of both, and to get those really high numbers. Yeah. So no, both are good. Now, I will say that it's the chemical sunscreens that they don't want you to use if you go to the barrier reef, if you go to Hawaii and swimming in the ocean there. They don't, it seems to be harmful to the coral. So they don't like you to use those. But titanium zinc oxide are okay.
You mentioned this, but there is a lot of talk about how zinc is not good for you when you slather it on, and all these chemicals and the sunscreens aren't good for you, but you're saying you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, the thing that was, I think, popular there for a while was benzene in sunscreen, and benzene is primarily used in the sprays, but, you know, I think, you know, there again, you know, some people think ingesting paraffins cause cancer, and so, but, you know, who knows, maybe we'll learn otherwise in 20, 30 years from now.
Okay. The other thing, though, is you're saying don't be out in the sun, protect yourself, but then all the other doctors are saying your vitamin D level is too low. I know you mentioned this, but then we're caught in the middle.
Yeah. So to give you an idea of how much sun exposure you need for vitamin D levels, both forearms expose once a week, 15 to 20 minutes. That'll give you sufficient amounts of vitamin D. Obviously, we have supplements that you can take also. But you don't need a lot of sun to maintain your, you know, vitamin D levels. In fact, there are studies that show that surfers in Hawaii are vitamin D deficient. You know, it's hard to understand that.
Why are they deficient? they wearing sunscreen?
Well, some probably are, but probably many are not, and they're washing it off constantly. So I'm sure they don't have a little bottle attached to their surfboard of sunscreen and reapplying after they get back up on the board each time. But it's like I make the analogy to weightlifters and protein. You know, weightlifters eat a massive amount of protein, 100 grams or more in their diets, daily, when you only need about 20 for the average person. And so if you're the average person eating 100 grams of protein and not breaking down muscle with weightlifting, what does your body do with that? Gets rid of it, right? It filters it through your liver, your kidneys. And so I think these people that are getting, super exposure from sun and getting a lot of vitamin D, I think they're depleting their vitamin D levels.
That's interesting. Is there a certain, I know you don't have any commercial interest in it, but is there a certain sunscreen or blocker brand? You showed a couple that you think works better? Or?
I tell people I don't care what they buy, just look for broad spectrum and look for number 30 or higher. Those are the only two things. And as far as what you like is, to a certain extent, how it feels on your skin when you put it on. There's a large variation with that. And so, yeah.
Any
No, I like to use the baby sunscreen myself. That's for the kids. I don't know. The others seem to irritate my skin, but the baby formulas they have out there for the children work good for the adults.
Good. Yeah. Okay.
All right, thanks so much, Carl.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.